I'm Laura Jewell, I'm Master of Wine, and I'm Tesco's Product Development Manager for wine. So we have a very big team, but then we sell over 350 million bottles a year. So we operate in 11 countries, and the buying team in the UK actually buys all the wines globally. So wines that we sell in China, in Thailand, in Hungary will have been bought by the team here in the UK. And we work as pairs, so for each country we'll have a buyer and we'll have a product developer, and I look after the product development team. And each of those product developers has the WSET diploma, and they are what we call the sniffers and spitters. And then the buyers do all the commercial negotiation with the suppliers, and they also put the trade plan together, so they put the promotional plan together. So it's almost as though we choose it, sniff it, spit it, negotiate it with the buyer then puts together that promotional program in order to sell it. I think it's interesting to look at the trends that there are. So we've seen a real move towards refreshment, we've seen a real move towards sweeter wines, and we've also seen certain countries becoming incredibly popular, such as Argentinian Malbec and New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I think my main wish for the future is that people aren't afraid to experiment. It's very easy to get into a rut and just know what you like and just stay there. And the best thing for me is when somebody explores and discovers a new flavour and realises that they like it. That's one of the most rewarding parts of this job. I also think we shouldn't be at all snobbish about mixing wine, and we're seeing more and more fruit flavoured wine-based drinks coming through. But even something as simple as, I put an ice cube in my glass of white if it's not cold enough. Yeah? Yes, that dilutes the flavours a little bit, but it makes it cold. And what does it matter? I'm not talking top-end Burgundy, I'm talking about a glass of wine on a hot summer's day. So we need to take the snobbery out of wine. It's got to be an everyday drink. You would think almost the obvious answer to that question would be availability. Everybody thinks that Tesco is this enormous company, and yes it is, we sell lots and lots of bottles. But we can buy very, very small parcels, so 10 cases of something is perfect, and we'll put it online through our Wine by the Case offering. So actually availability or size isn't the biggest challenge. It can be in some areas. So somewhere like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, where we buy an awful lot of, I think we're something like 10% of Marlborough's output of Sauvignon Blanc, and that creates its own challenges. And I think one challenge we have is actually the enthusiasm of the team. We'd want to buy probably double the range that we have if we had the shelf space for it, because we get so enthusiastic about wines that we find. But every wine on our shelf has to have a reason to be there, and it has to be a commercial reason or a profile or a customer need. It has to fulfill a customer need. So we have to make sure we're being commercial all the time and rein in some of that enthusiasm for the product. We've got a much larger range of Argentinian wines, and it's not just Malbec. We're seeing some lovely blends coming through, and we've got a gorgeous Tempranillo on the shelf at the moment that's just arrived. Sparkling wines, I think, are fantastic, and it's not just about the growth of Prosecco. We're seeing a lot of other styles coming through, so something like Pignoletto from the north of Italy, or even Fizzy Moscato. It's been around for years as Asti, but now the Californians are really taking it to heart, and something like Barefoot Moscato is a very commercial blend. It just tastes like cream soda. It's fantastic. And I think probably the other area that's exciting at the moment is Portugal, where we're seeing a lot of new and interesting grapes and styles coming through. Both whites and reds, but particularly whites, I think. There's more to Portugal than just Vinho Verde. We have so much data that we can look at. Obviously Tesco has its club card, and we have huge amounts of data about people's buying habits. We do a lot of research with the usual people like Wine Intelligence and Nielsen, etc. Everything we do is informed by the customer. But also, that's all about looking back, and a lot of what we try to do is to look forward and to lead and innovate. So for instance, 10 years ago, probably less than 10% of the wines in the UK would have had a screw cap. And Tesco were the first people to absolutely drive that initiative. And now I would say probably 80% of wines in the UK have a screw cap. And it's that as a quality message, but also as a convenience message, that Tesco can lead and innovate. I'd like to think we have a lot of influence, but again, it comes back to that conversation that you need to have with the customer. The buying side of it is really quite straightforward, but all you do is put a bottle of wine on a shelf. And the important thing is to get it off the shelf, is to encourage people to try it and buy it and enjoy it and come back for the next one. And that's about education, it's about sharing, it's about talking to our customers, it's about, we do tastings, live stream tastings, we do Facebook question and answer sessions, we have a community with over 20,000 people who are constantly having conversations with us about product. We frequently do tastings with our customers, we do the Tesco wine fairs, and all of that is really important to us to understand what our customers want and what styles of wine they want. So I'd like to think that we've got a fair amount of influence, but it's a lot of interaction that's needed in order to make it happen. I have a single wine that I would take on my desert island, and that is a Magnum of Bollinger RD 1964. It's just a fabulous wine. I haven't had it for quite a while, but when I first tasted it, it was in the Bollinger house with their export manager, who was an extremely good-looking bloke. There were about a dozen of us for lunch, and it was very, very simple lunch, and I remember we finished with strawberries, no cream, just plain strawberries, and this RD 64 Bollinger, which was just divine. So it's as much about the memory as the flavour of the wine, as always, but it was absolutely brilliant.